Hey guys, welcome to Quick Concepts. That's a new short series that I've introduced. So we'll be discussing some concepts, in concise and in brief. So that'll be about this series. So we'll discuss a few topics that are, very important for your prof examinations as well as also from your competitive examinations point of view, right? Whether it is your NEET PG, INI-CET or MLE, all of these topics will be important there, right? So let's begin with today's session. My name is Chetanya Mittal. I am currently pursuing my MBBS at AIMS Delhi. And at the end of the video, I'll also be talking to you about the Unacademy subscription, which is, we have two subscriptions. One is the Plus, the other is the Iconic subscription. So I'll tell you in detail about these two subscriptions and how you can take them by going to the Unacademy Learner application. And you will also be able to get a 10% discount if you remember this referral code CHETANYA. That's my name, Chetanya, followed by 10. You'll get a 10% discount and you'll be eligible for the best of the offers on the Unacademy application. So I'll tell you more about that at the end of this video. Let's begin with today's session very quickly. And today's session, another high yield, video for your examinations here is on autoantibodies. Okay. So what are autoantibodies? These are antibodies that are responsible for, any autoimmune disorder. Okay, so autoimmune disorders, they can be due to autoantibodies. They can also be due to the cell mediated immunity attacking the body itself. Okay, but these autoantibodies, they're often asked in your examinations as MCQs. Okay, so autoantibodies as a topic from immunity, it's very important from a MCQ point of view, right? So we'll do it from a MCQ point of view only. We will read about the antibody and the disorder. So on the left hand side, I will be writing the autoantibody, and on the right hand side, I will be writing the name of the disorder. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. And in this way, we'll be learning a lot about various disorders, various antibodies. Now, let me talk about the ones that you have, read at a very basic level. First of all is a very important differentiation question that is there in physiology also. Myasthenia gravis and Lambert-Eaton myasthenic syndrome. I hope you can expand these. Okay, I'll just write it in short if you don't know Lambert-Eaton. This is called as Lambert-Eaton, and myasthenia gravis, I hope you all know. Okay, so in both of these you have antibodies. In both of these you have antibodies. So I am not writing one word again and again, and that one word is anti, because all of these are antibodies. So in front of all of these names that I'm writing, you will have anti. Okay. So in myasthenia gravis, you have antibodies against the acetylcholine receptor. You have antibodies against acetylcholine receptor. So they are antibodies against acetylcholine receptor. So let me write it in red or green. Okay, you can write it in, I think we can write it in red. The antibodies against the acetylcholine receptor. Okay, so postsynaptic acetylcholine receptor, there are antibodies against that, and that is about myasthenia gravis. However, in Lambert-Eaton myasthenic syndrome, the antibodies are not located on the postsynaptic terminal, they are located on the presynaptic terminal, and they are against calcium channels. So these are against voltage gated channels for calcium, against voltage gated calcium channels, right? These are postsynaptic, these are presynaptic, right? So please keep that in mind. This is a very important difference that is asked between myasthenia gravis and Lambert-Eaton myasthenic. In fact, there's a whole clinical box given in your Genong, and based on that you can have a question in your physiology examination also. Okay, next disorder that you guys should know about is SLE, right? There is a disorder known as systemic lupus erythematosus, simply called as lupus. So SLE से related there are 3 antibodies. Okay, you will read which is the most sensitive, most specific. ये सब चीजें आप पढ़ोगे. And there's a non-specific antibody that is used for screening called as ANA, anti-nuclear. Okay, so it is against certain nuclear proteins. So I'll just write it down. It is called as ANA. Okay, I'm just writing it anti-nuclear. It is non-specific. It is not specific for SLE. Okay, then you have antibody against double-stranded DNA or Smith proteins, right? So there is a you can have anti double-stranded DNA or anti Smith antibodies. They can be there, and there's a phospholipid called as cardiolipin. So you can have what is called as anti-cardiolipin antibodies. ठीक है, lupus anticoagulant ऐसा भी होता है. So all of these are related to SLE. ठीक है. एक और होता है ड्रग इंड्यूस्ड लूपस. एक और लूपस होता है ड्रग इंड्यूस्ड lupus. In that the antibodies are against histone proteins. ठीक है, बट ये थोड़ी आपके लिए ऊपर की बात होगी. नेक्स्ट, रूमेटॉइड आर्थराइटिस, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एज अ डिसऑर्डर. रूमेटॉइड आर्थराइटिस. Okay, so rheumatoid arthritis, the antibodies, first of all, not just which antibodies are there. Okay, it's the antibody is very simple. It's the rheumatoid factor. It's called as the RH factor. Okay, rheumatoid factor. What type of antibody is it? It's called as the IgM antibody. So it's the IgM antibody, and it is against the IgG antibody. So it's a very weird antibody. So it's called as rheumatoid RH factor. Okay, and it is the IgM antibody. It is the type of antibody is IgM. There is another antibody related to rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, what I'll do is, let's take rheumatoid arthritis and let's do it on a separate page because it's relatively important. Okay, so I don't want you guys to miss out on this. So let's talk in detail about rheumatoid arthritis. So in rheumatoid arthritis, the basic pathophysiology is that this is IgG. This is a type of antibody called as IgG, right? This is the variable region called as FAB, the variable fragment, and this is the constant fragment. So in rheumatoid arthritis, you develop antibodies against this fragment, the constant fragment. Against that, you develop IgM antibodies, and they are called as the rheumatoid factor. Okay. One more type of antibody that is more specific. Okay. More specific antibody is called as anti-CCP. Okay. Anti-CCP antibodies. So they are more specific than these antibodies than the rheumatoid factor for rheumatoid arthritis. So this is cyclic citrulinated peptide. CCP stands for cyclic citrulinated peptide. Cyclic citrulinated peptide. That is about rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm just going to, give it sort of a mention here. Anti-CCP and IgM rheumatoid factor. I hope that explains things for you. So these disorders are some of the most important disorders that I'm mentioning right now. Okay. Understood? Shall we go ahead? Now, antibodies against the hemidesmosome and desmosome, they are again important. Okay, they're also a question related to your anatomy. So antibody against hemidesmosome, and antibody against desmosome. These two are important. So antibody against hemidesmosome and desmosome, they're also a question in your dermatology. Direct question is asked. Okay, so anti-hemidesmosome antibody, it is present in bullous pemphigoid. Disorder is called as bullous because there is formation of bullae. So this is called as bullous pemphigoid. And formation of antibody against desmosome or desmoglein, that occurs in pemphigus vulgaris. Pemphigus important. Okay, derma mein you will probably read about this again. Now there is an antibody against peroxidase enzyme or thyroglobulin, okay, in a disorder called as Hashimoto thyroiditis. Okay, you all read about Hashimoto disease, Hashimoto thyroiditis. It is a type of hypothyroidism. In this, the antibodies, they are against thyroglobulin, or they can be against the enzyme called as TPO or thyroid peroxidase. Okay, they can either be against thyroglobulin or against peroxidase. Then there is a similar disorder affecting the thyroid called as the Graves' disease. Okay, but instead of being a hypothyroidism, it is a hyperthyroidism, because here the antibodies mimic TSH. So they are against the TSH receptor. They are going to mimic the TSH. Okay. Now that is important. Okay. Next antibodies that I will talk about are antibodies in type 1 diabetes mellitus. Type 1 diabetes mellitus. That's about this Graves. So we were talking about type 1 diabetes mellitus. So type 1 diabetes mellitus, there's an enzyme called as glutamic acid decarboxylase. Okay. So that is glutamic acid decarboxylase. So let me just write it down for you guys. Diabetes mellitus type 1. Okay. Now there are a variety of antibodies that can be there, and one of the very important one is anti-glutamic acid decarboxylase. So you all know that glutamic acid decarboxylase, it's an enzyme related to the metabolism of the cell. So this one is there, glutamic acid decarboxylase. Then you can have antibodies against the islet cell cytoplasm. That's about type 1 diabetes mellitus. Now, second one is pernicious anemia. That's also related to what you have studied in your general physiology. Okay. So pernicious anemia, it is related to vitamin B12 deficiency. And for absorption of vitamin B12, a very important factor is called as the intrinsic factor, which is secreted by the parietal cells. So if you have antibodies against the parietal cell or against the intrinsic factor, in both cases you are liable to have pernicious anemia. You can have pernicious anemia in a patient. Okay. Then very commonly encountered syndrome, and when I was teaching you hypersensitivity, I have mentioned this to you, good pasture syndrome. Okay, good pasture syndrome, and here you have antibodies against the glomerular basement membrane. That is why it affects the kidneys the most and also the lungs. So good pasture, it is which type of hypersensitivity reaction? Good pasture syndrome, it is a type 2 hypersensitivity reaction which is mediated by deposition of antibodies. So that is a correlate that you need to remember here about good pastures syndrome. All right. So I hope this table simplifies at least learning that much for you. So now some less important disorders maybe, or those disorders that you will also read about in your second year. So celiac disease, right? It is very common disorder. So you should know these antibodies. Very commonly they're also done anti-tissue transglutaminase. That's the very commonly done antibody for this. So mainly the antibodies here, they are of IgA type, so IgA is responsible for mucosal immunity. Celiac disorder affects the intestines. So there are 2 or 3 IgA antibodies that are involved here, and the most important one that you need to remember is tissue transglutaminase, anti-tissue transglutaminase. Transglutaminase. Apart from transglutaminase antibody, which else do you have? Which are the other ones that you have? Any idea? So there is an anti-endomysial antibody. Anti-endomysial antibody is one, and one antibody is called as deamidated gliadin. Okay, so it is a wheat allergy कहते हैं ना, so the allergy is actually against a component of gluten-free wheat. सुना होगा gluten-free. So a component of protein is called as gliadin. So you can have a immunity against this. You can have an antibody against gliadin. Okay, it's a peptide. Okay, so that is on another important one, okay. Rest, there are a lot of other antibodies. You will read about them in pathology, so I don't want to go into their detail here, right? For example, Sjogren syndrome, then scleroderma, and there's an antibody for that's very very important, P ANCA and C ANCA, right? So those antibodies you will read about in pathology. Rest you will read in pathology, so that I'm not going into those details. Okay, but I have covered those, at least those from pathology also, the ones that are relevant at least to your first year, that you commonly study in physiology, anatomy, biochemistry, somewhere in the first prof you study these antibodies. Okay, so thank you so much guys. That was the session on antibodies and the immunity aspect related to them. Thank you so much guys for watching this video. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, please remember to hit the like button, drop a comment, share it with all your friends, and ask them to subscribe. In case you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And you can also hit the bell icon for notifications. You can also subscribe to our Telegram channel. The link for that is also there in the description. So you can subscribe to YouTube, and you can also subscribe to our Telegram channel. So before I end the video, let me tell you very quickly about the Unacademy program. Like I told you, we have a Plus subscription and a Iconic subscription. In the Plus subscription, you get access to the Unacademy application where India's top educators are taking live courses. Now, these are structured batch courses meant for a specific purpose, and you will also get the recorded videos and the notes for these sessions. Along with that, आपको क्या मिलता है? एक QBank मिलता है जिससे आप अपने PG की तैयारी कर सकते हैं, which has over 25,000 questions with a clinical orientation. And you can also attempt grand tests and quizzes with other learners, so you can know how good your preparation is. If you go for the Iconic subscription plan, the best thing is आपको दोबारा कभी कुछ सोचना ही नहीं पड़ेगा, right? You not only get the live experience of Unacademy, but you also get the recorded experience of Prep Ladder, where top 19 faculty, they are making videos for the 19 subjects, complete MBBS, and that is very good for your examinations, a quick revision. And here you will get the printed notes delivered to your doorstep. So that is the one of the biggest advantages of the Iconic subscription. And you can see that you can select your goal as NEET PG on the Unacademy learner application, and you can either go for Plus or Iconic. तो जो भी आप select करते हैं उसका duration select करो, and then you will have the option to apply this referral code, that is CHETANYA Chetanya 10, or you can also use a simpler referral code SPCM. Okay, please remember to use any of these two referral codes. You will get a 10% discount and the best offers on Unacademy, and I will also be really thankful to you. Okay, so these are some of the features that you can try out on Unacademy, and you can unlock special classes using my referral code Chetanya 10. So the classes are really interactive. We have a very good chat box, and we also have polls in the sessions. New feature, raise a hand. I'll just tell you about it. There's a QBank that has 25,000 clinically oriented questions which are very relevant for your entrance examinations, along with explanations and मतलब page number दिया हुआ है कि कौन सी किताब में कहाँ पे दिया हुआ है, right? You can also go for the Plus subscription, where if you go for a 2-year plan, you get 4 months extra. If you go for a 1-year plan, you get 2 months extra, and for a 6-month subscription, you get 1 month at no additional cost. Okay, these were the grand tests I was telling you about. You can try them out on the application. The new feature, raise a hand. You can basically raise your hand and unmute yourself in the live class. ठीक है, और आपका जो भी doubt है educator live session में solve करेगा. So that's the most interactive feature that we have on the platform, and ऐसा कहीं और नहीं है, right? So these are some of the toppers of our recently declared results for NEET PG. So we would really like to congratulate them. We keep on starting new batches for everyone, for no matter if you're preparing for NEET PG or INI-CET, or if it's next, if you're giving it in 2023 or FMG. So we have all of these batches even for profs. Okay, so you can join whichever batch you guys are going to prepare for, and you can join multiple batches also. So you can continue your learning on Unacademy. Thank you so much guys for watching. See you in the next session.